Hello, game developers. Sky here again, and here's another game idea, which I think might be interesting. I'm not too sure. And if anything, it kind of builds off of the idea of faction, or you can use the same game mechanics and design layout for this game as well. I'm not too sure what to call it exactly, but I guess I'll call it The Odds, and it's based off of a story which I was thinking of, or thought of years ago. But put into a gameplay format, you can imagine it as a strategy game with no menu interface. And here's what I mean. First-person view. You can do any of the elements, any of the things that was mentioned in Faction. So you can, either interact with people, or you can just go about, take an axe and attack a tree, kind of thing to make wood, or take up a weapon and attack, NPCs and or animals, kind of thing, and whatever can be done. But here's the thing: is that nothing, unless the player really wants to, you see nothing. You understand you've taken damage, by you can have like a certain a bloody haze, around the sides of the screen, so okay, I'm taking damage, I need to run away. But otherwise, there is nothing in front of you. There's nothing on the view screen to signal to you, to signify to you anything. The player can decide how much they want to put on the screen. As a result, in using the idea used in Faction of NPCs that they kind of plug themselves in and they grow and develop based on what's around them, what's expected of them, even. Personalities develop, and sort of connections are developed. So I think this is like the next area you want to start and develop, or that the next idea of a gameplay you want to develop, and that is the connectiveness between an NPC and a player. So the way the game will play out is, think of, Jamestown settlement in the new, for the New World, New England. You're a European country. You send out a ship. They land at Plymouth Rock, wherever. And it's like, okay, so we now have to establish a settlement. So the players, or the player finds himself on a settlement. And there's different ideas I had for how it could be based. And the initial idea I had is that, well, it was actually several people, and they arrive at a place naked. They have all, they're from Earth. They have all this technology in their minds. It's just a question of, well, they have to manage their resources, and they have to acquire people with skills. And from there, they grow and develop their community, and that way they can face the enemy. But a simpler example to use would be the Native American, role. And in fact, when I think about it, that does make a bit more sense, because, the idea would be that you can play as the commander of a settlement expedition. You arrive on a piece of land, either random or you can choose, and based on that, you have so many personnel that you are in charge of, and that they kind of have their own personalities, but more or less they're going to listen to you. So that's a good positive quality there. Later on, elements of loyalty will come into effect later. Now realize you can't see anything other than what your character, what your player, your avatar can see. So unless you're keeping something written down in your mind, or written down in front of you, you don't really know anything. When it comes time to building buildings, though, or constructing buildings, that you'll have highlights. You can lay it on the ground, or that it'll be a shaded area, and that way you can designate, what the size of the building you want, how big the building the building will be. That's left up to the game design, or the game will decide itself. But you can decide how big, how you want the building arranged, kind of thing, and what you want the building to be. So as a result, you can decide, shelters, food storage, item creation, production, and on, kind of thing. The whole, there's Conquest of the New World, which is an example, but so imagine Conquest of the New World, which was a kind of isometric overview look down onto the map, but now from a first-person perspective. The other example would be Age of Empires. So you can decide, all right, I want this building here, I want this building there, okay, and but from a first-person perspective. Um, if the player wants, there is an idea for a map, and the thing is, like, the map will basically be something that the player carries around in his or her hand, and based on the level of technology, the amount of resources that the player has will improve the map. So it will improve the material the map's made out of, and both the quality of the layout of the map, kind of thing. That's just it's like one of those little neat visual things for the player. But the result is that the player can decide, all right, I want a community built here. I want it to have this many houses of this arrangement, so that way it has kind of a Sid Meier and a Sims arrangement of, well, I can decide how I want the environment to look. But the other aspect is that you have people that you need to manage and take care of. So it can be a little tedious, so that might discourage some players. But I think that there's other ways that you can have you can have an NPC in charge, and then that way you can be one of the free agents who can you can decide what jobs you want to do for that NPC commander. Also, the result, you can run around. So you can go out and meet the Indians. You can just, meet with them on your own and kind of interact with them and talk to them. And I think the other interesting element would be that they speak the language. So you meet up with some people, and hopefully they know some English or know some French, and and hopefully you'll know some French. But then the player can decide if they want French subtitles or not. So the player literally constructs before their eyes the environment that they're going to interact in. Not exactly a new concept, but I think where you get it new is that it's not, the player can't exactly go to a map. There will be elements where you can, and in fact there might be some elements, and so that's where you have the one element of a map. But otherwise the player can't go to a map. The player can't, decide this or that. You can have go to here or there kind of things. So kind of like in World of Warcraft. But the whole running around aspect got kind of boring. So I think that's why you would need a map, and you want to say, hey, go here. I'm too I just don't want to bother messing around and trying to figure out my compass bearings and this and that. But I think that that element, it would be appealing to many players. Especially like the Sid Meier crowd, the Civilization. Because then as a result, you can establish one community, and then you can, once you get enough people together or organized or an army formed. That's the other aspect is that, so you've established your community. It's a walled, city of some sort. You have buildings, and somebody approaches you, or somebody approaches the player, and says, "Hey, there's an army, coming. Hey, there's a bunch of armed guys coming to get us." So now you realize, oh, wait a minute, now I have to form an army. So as a result, you then can approach, different NPCs, or call for NPCs. And it's the whole call. It would be like, you type in yell kind of thing in, an MMO. NPC approaches, and you now instruct the NPC, hey, guess what? You are now in charge of arming and equipping an army, kind of thing, or training, and this is the other aspect of the game, is that NPCs themselves have certain qualities and traits, and you'll understand and know those based on what the NPC can say. So the only thing that would pop up would be conversation choices, and the written conversation from the NPC. The result is that based on interaction, NPCs can grow. You can make the NPC grow, and you can then, like, the way you would control battles would be, you can either kind of say, hey, erect me a tower so I can direct guys in this direction, and from that aspect you can then drag and highlight, direct your forces in a certain direction. And then, of course, there'll be some guys that can't, that won't understand or hear the directions, and they'll mess up. So that's another aspect. So that would be neat to incorporate. Or you can be down on the ground yourself and just lead the guys right into the battle, which would have its own